Futaro was a genius but broke bum who does odd jobs to pay his family debt. However, when he gets a job tutoring 5 rich and busty baddies, he rizzes them up with nerd talk and gives them freaky biology lessons outside class. Futaro was about to eat his cheap lunch when a red-haired baddie, Itsuki, showed up, also wanting the seat. The two clash over the table but quickly call a truce, deciding to sit together. Futaro notices that Itsuki is a new student and comes from a wealthy family from the fancy food she's eating. Then, as they begin to eat, Itsuki scolds him for studying his exam papers at the table, so she snatches it and sees that he has a perfect score. Struggling with her own studies, she asks him to help her, but Futaro ignores her and finishes his cheap lunch quickly. She offers to share her food, knowing his meal isn't filling, but he declines, calling her an unteachable dimwit, and bluntly warning her not to overeat unless she wants to look like Jabba the Hutt. Just then, he gets a call from little sister, Reiha, who explains that their father has found a tutoring job for Futaro, one that pays so well it could help pay their debts. But to his horror, he has to tutor Itsuki, the very girl he just had a fight with. Back in class, Futaro sees Itsuki walk in and wanting to get on her good side. He tries to greet her, but she ignores him after their rocky first encounter. The next day, Futaro tries again during lunch to mend things with her, but she's already surrounded by friends. Itsuki mocks him and tells his broke existence to find another table. Later, Futaro arrives at Itsuki's apartment for the first tutoring session. He's awestruck by the luxury of the building, realizing just how rich she must be. Just then, some girls confront him about stalking Itsuki, and, being cornered, Futaro dashes for the elevator, only to miss Itsuki as the doors close. Refusing to give up, he charges up the stairs to reach her, and she demands to know why he's here. Futaro reveals that he is her tutor, shocking her, and he insists that from now on they'll be partners, whether she likes it or not. Suddenly, the elevator doors open, and out step 4 of Itsuki's twin sisters, Miku, Nino, Jatsuba, and Ichika. Stunned, Futaro struggles to process the fact that he now has to teach 5 twin sisters at once. Inside, Futaro tries to formally introduce himself as their tutor, but no one is there to listen. However, one sister, Jatsuba, welcomes him and drags him upstairs to meet the others. Itsuki, Miku, and Nino all air him, so Jatsuba takes him to Ichika's room, which is a shocking mess. Jatsuba turns on the light to reveal Ichika hiding under her blanket. Futaro tries to get her to study, but she ignores him. When he pulls the blanket away, he accidentally catches her looking like a snack.
Wow! Beautiful!
And quickly storms out. Later, he gathers all 5 at the table, determined to start tutoring. Then one sister, Nino, kindly offers him her homemade cookies, and when he eats one, he collapses, and the next thing he sees is that he wakes up in a cab outside his home. From the front seat, Itsuki admits she found his address in his student handbook and mentions that her sisters have once again driven out a tutor. Just then, his little sister, Reiha, greets them, and charmed by Itsuki, she insists she stay for dinner. Over dinner, Reiha asks about the tutoring job, and Futaro lies that it went great, signaling Itsuki to play along so Reiha doesn't get upset. Reiha tells Futaro how happy she is that they can finally start paying their debts, and Itsuki feels conflicted when hearing that. After the dinner, Itsuki firmly declares that she doesn't need a tutor and will study on her own, but she will let him tutor her other sisters. Futaro is confident he can help them, but what he does not know is that all the sisters are failing. The next day, Futaro goes back to discuss what they did to him the last time they saw each other, and he makes it clear that he is not quitting as their tutor. Nino insists Futaro should give up, claiming that they never needed a tutor. Futaro then gives them an offer that if they can prove they don't need him by taking a test, he'll step aside. Futaro explains that all they have to do is score at least half 100 to be rid of him. Reluctantly, the sisters sit down to take the test. Hours later, they finish and Futaro grades each one. He reveals the dreadful truth that, combined, their scores equal a perfect 100. However, not a single one of them passes. The sisters scatter to their rooms in embarrassment, while Futaro stands there, realizing they all truly have the potential to fail. The next day, Futaro heads to school, and outside the building, he notices a fancy car he's never seen before. The doors open, and the sisters step out together. When they see his chopped face, the girls hurry away from Futaro, insisting that they don't need him and will find their own way to graduate. Futaro refuses to give up and throws them the first question from his test, but none of them can answer. Inside the school, Futaro realizes the sisters didn't take his test seriously, and they hate him, but still, he forms a plan to win them back one by one. Just then, he notices that Miku knows the answer to his earlier question, leaving him stunned at why she didn't answer him. At lunch, Futaro immediately approaches Miku. He He spots her matcha soda, and curious, he asks to try it since he's never had one before. But Miku refuses, not wanting to share with him. Just as Futaro is about to ask her about the test, Jotsuba suddenly interrupts. Then Ichika shows up, teasing Futaro with a wink as she tells Jotsuba to give them space. Jotsuba suggests Ichika join the tutoring, but Ichika brushes it off, declaring that school should be fun, filled with memories of getting clapped and the almighty hand-holding. Futaro grows irritated, as he's never cared for the fun school life Ichika imagines. Then, out of nowhere, Jotsuba asks Miku if she has feelings for someone. Miku's face burns red, and she storms off, denying it, but Jotsuba and Ichika exchange a knowing look that they can tell Miku is in love. After lunch, Futaro returns to class and finds a letter on his desk from Miku, asking him to meet her on the rooftop after school. Futaro panics, wondering if he's the person she has feelings for. Deep down, Futaro suspects the letter might just be a prank, but still, after school, he decides to go. Then Miku steps out. She thanks him for reading her letter and says she has something to tell him. Futaro's heart races, and he braces for a confession, but instead, Miku calmly gives him the answer to the first question on his test. Relieved, Miku admits she wanted to say it properly, but Futaro is left stunned. He asks if she meant to confess something else, but she denies the rumors. As she turns to leave, he grabs her hand. Her phone slips and falls, revealing a Warlord crest wallpaper. Embarrassed, Miku the truth that she loves Sengoku period warlords. It all started when Jotsuba showed her a game, and ever since, she's been obsessed. She plays games, reads books, and studies their history. Even though everyone thinks it's weird, she begs Futaro not to see her as a strange girl. And to him, she is strange, but it's also the perfect opening to bond with her. He tells her it isn't weird, proudly revealing his perfect history scores. Miku takes it as a challenge, insisting she knows more than him about warlords. The two then go back and forth, trading warlord facts until Futaro cleverly tricks her. He pretends he has to leave and says that if she really wants to keep discussing warlords, she should join his tutoring. Blushing, Miku reluctantly agrees. Before they part, she buys a matcha soda for him as a token of goodwill. She warns him it doesn't contain snot, but Futaro freezes in confusion. Miku scoffs, unimpressed that he doesn't know the reference, and calls him out for being all talk. Annoyed, Futaro vows to study even harder, determined to master warlord history knowledge. The next day, Futaro calls Miku to meet after school. Confident, he challenges her again on warlord history, but Miku bolts, afraid of being roped into tutoring. Futaro realizes the pattern that they always run when studying comes up. He chases her, only to bump into Jotsuba, and when he runs past her, he discovers another Jotsuba. After a confusing doppelganger encounter, he discovers that the first Jotsuba is really Miku in disguise, wearing headphones and her long hair down, so he chases her again. They end up running through the school, debating warlords as they go. Exhausted, they finally stop, and Futaro gets a front row seat to watch her take off her stockings to reveal the smooth snoo-snoo. Futaro then buys them both drinks, including another matcha soda for Miku. He proudly declares he now knows the snot story, having studied books all night just to keep up with her. Miku hides her face, confessing that she can't let her sisters know about her warlord obsession. She feels like the loser among them, but Futaro gently tells her she's actually the smartest since she scored the highest on his exam. But Miku shakes her head and urges him to give up on her and focus on the others. But Futaro refuses, as his job is to tutor all five, so they can graduate with smiles on their faces. Miku quietly smiles at his determination, but still, she doubts it's possible. Futaro acknowledges it's nearly impossible, but he believes that Miku can do things her sisters do, and her sisters can do things Miku does. He then shows her the answers to their mock test they did, and they realize that none of the sisters got the same answers right, which shows that they have the potential to all succeed. The next day in the library, Futaro is tutoring Jotsuba when Miku shows up and quietly pulls a warlord history book off the shelf. Then she says that she wants to try studying, and Futaro and Jotsuba both smile at her decision. Jotsuba can't resist teasing, asking if the boy Miku is falling for is Futaro. Miku's face flares red, but she denies it. The next day, Futaro goes to the sister's apartment, and he thinks the door is busted cause it won't open despite his best efforts. Miku pops up, clocks him, and informs him that the door can only be opened with the resident's keys, and he can use the telecom to ask them to open the door whenever he needs to come in. Embarrassed, Futaro realizes how foolish he must have looked and assumes Miku probably doesn't want to study now, but to his surprise, she invites him inside to teach the sisters. Once inside, Futaro calls the sisters to study under his tutoring by going from room to room. Shaking them one by one, Jotsuba happily joins. Itsuki insists on studying alone, and Ichika remains asleep while Jotsuba busily looks through her clothes. She accidentally finds a piece of what your mom wore last night. Ichika teases Jotsuba by saying she would look just as good in it since they're twins. Jotsuba, flustered, asks Futaro what he thinks, but he, being his usual unbothered self, simply doesn't care, which annoys Jotsuba. Then Futaro manages to get the girls to study apart from Nino, which he believes is progress compared to how he started. But Nino shows up and mocks Futaro for being such a tryhard, almost getting under his skin, especially after recalling how she previously drugged him. He steadies himself and calmly invites her to join the session, but Nino coldly rejects him. She then uses her manipulation skills to lure every single one of her sisters to ditch the study session, and succeeds, except for Miku. Nino tries repeatedly to drag Miku away as well, but no matter what she says, Miku refuses to leave, determined to study Japanese history with Futaro. Hearing that nonsense, Nino accuses Miku of having ugly dogs like Futaro as her type. But Miku barks back at Nino, calling her shallow for only caring about a guy's looks. In the middle of their beauty standard argument, Nino challenges Miku to a cooking battle, which is Nino's specialty, saying that it will prove which of them has the better inner beauty. She adds that if she wins, Miku must stop studying with Futaro, and despite Futaro's pleas for them to stop, Miku accepts Nino's challenge. Half an hour later, both girls present their contrasting dishes, Nino with her perfectly cooked Dutch baby against Miku's horrific omelette rice. Out of shame, Miku begs Futaro not to taste hers, but when he tries both dishes, his broke bum tongue says that they are both delicious. While Nino is furious at his reaction, she sees Miku's bright, satisfied smile at Futaro's praise, so she stops and storms off. But because of that competition, they end up not studying at all. But Futaro still notices that out of the 5 sisters, Nino seems to be the only one who truly hates him. However, Miku disagrees. Even though they fight constantly, she defends Nino, saying Futaro just needs to find the right way to approach her and Nino will come around, but he needs to figure it out. Then Futaro goes home, frustrated with his lack of progress, but he suddenly remembers he left his notebook at the apartment, so he calls Miku, who lets him in before heading to take a bath. When he goes inside, to his surprise, he unexpectedly finds Nino wrapped in nothing but a towel.
Wow! Beautiful!
But since she isn't wearing her contact lenses, she mistakes Futaro for Miku and casually asks him to hand her the lenses. Panicking, Futaro scrambles to find them without revealing his identity. Nino approaches him and leans his twin puppies against his back while searching too, causing Futaro to panic and almost bust. But as he's about to retreat,
Come on, man.
Nino starts venting, expressing her frustration that their home is invaded by a stranger and it should remain theirs alone, and that Futaro doesn't belong there. Suddenly, she accidentally bumps into a shelf, causing several books to tumble towards her. Futaro reacts quickly, pushing her out of the way, but ends up falling on top of her in a plotful position in the process. Without her lenses, Nino immediately assumes he's some kind of intruder, and Futaro tries to explain he only came for his notebook, but she refuses to believe him and angrily calls him a creep. Suddenly, Itsuki walks in and snaps a picture for proof. And the next moment, Futaro finds himself facing all the sisters as Nino claims he plotted the entire scene just to peek at her, insisting this should be enough to get him banned as their tutor. Futaro explains everything calmly, and Miku backs him up, revealing that she was the one who let him in before taking her bath. Nino lashes out at Miku for defending him, accusing her of liking him, but Miku denies it, and the two start arguing again. But while the two argue, Ichika and Itsuki take a closer look at the photo and notice the scattered books. Realizing Futaro's position suggests he was protecting Nino rather than doing the freaky to her, Futaro confirms this, but Nino refuses to listen, upset that no one is taking her side. Miku and Ichika try to calm her, saying there's no reason to stay this angry, and Futaro apologizes sincerely for the misunderstanding, but Nino storms off instead of accepting it. Later that evening, Futaro walks home and unexpectedly finds Nino sitting alone outside. As soon as she notices him, she rushes toward the door, but it closes before she can get in, locking her out, and Futaro realizes she forgot her key when she stormed off earlier. Deep down, Futaro doesn't want to deal with her, but he knows he can't leave her outside alone either, so he sits beside her and says that avoiding the issue won't solve anything. Nino declares she hates him and everyone else, but Futaro turns her words back on her, asking if that includes her sisters. He recalls her own words about the house belonging only to them, back to her, knowing that Nino's anger isn't just about him, but it's rooted in her deep love for her sisters and her desire to protect their bond from a stranger like him. But after hearing that, Nino's pride resurfaces, and she states that while she does love her sisters, she vows never to accept him, even if the others do. Just then, Miku comes outside to get her, but Nino quickly pulls her back into the apartment, leaving Futaro standing there alone, wondering how he'll ever succeed as their tutor when one of them absolutely rejects him. Then summer break begins, and Futaro finally gets a day off to do what he always loves to do, studying, while hoping to clear his mind from the 5 hot, devilish sisters. But no matter how hard he tries to focus, thoughts of them creep back in. He even starts drafting new math formulas to make things easier for Jotsuba and Miku before catching himself and scolding himself for thinking about them at all. Just then, the doorbell rings, interrupting his focus. Itsuki is there, and without thinking, Futaro shuts the door in her face, only to let her in moments later when she insists it's important. She then hands him the payment their father left for his tutoring, a bundle of cash that marks his first wages. Futaro stares at it in disbelief, realizing he can start paying debts, while Reita celebrates with childish joy, even praying to their late mother in excitement. When Itsuki is about to leave, Futaro tries to return the money, insisting he hasn't earned it, but she refuses, pointing out that things between the sisters are already changing because of him. She encourages him to use the money for something meaningful, so, wanting to celebrate, Futaro asks Reita if she wants anything special, and she excitedly chooses a trip to the arcade. But she begs Itsuki to come along too, and thanks to Reita's irresistible charm, Itsuki agrees. Though Futaro isn't thrilled about spending the day with her, he forces a smile for Reita's sake and tags along. Then, at the arcade, watching Reiha's pure happiness warms Itsuki's heart. Futaro explains that their family has struggled for years, and that he wants to make Reiha's wishes come true whenever he can. Reiha then suggests taking a picture together, and Futaro tries to avoid it. But Itsuki reminds him of his desire to keep Reiha happy, so he agrees to take a picture, where Reita shines in joy, while Futaro and Itsuki pose like two parents who are forced to stay together because of their kid. Itsuki laughs endlessly at the results, while Reita beams with gratitude. Back home, Futaro wants to continue his studies and even reminds Itsuki to focus on her own studies as well. Just then, Reita tells them that 4 other Itsukis are waiting outside, and it turns out to be the other 4 sisters. Jotsuba greets Reita warmly and invites her to watch fireworks with them. Futaro initially protests, but when he sees Reita's goo-goo eyes, he can't help but agree as long as the sisters finish their homework first. So they rush home, complete their homework, and reach the festival in time. There, the sisters are excited, but Futaro is drained and finds a quiet spot to rest while the others keep Reita entertained. Itsuki approaches him, but because of her new hairstyle, Futaro struggles to recognize which ugly sister she is, which annoys her. Seeing that, Ichika teases him for not having negative riz and tells him he should at least compliment a girl when she looks nice. She even jokingly offers to show him what's under her yukata, only for her sisters to scold her, and she quickly insists she was kidding. Suddenly, Ichika receives a call from work, informing her she has to come in that night, which ruins her mood. Meanwhile, Reita pops up with Jotsuba carrying a pile of fish. Jotsuba caught for her. Futaro scolds Jotsuba for spoiling Reiha, but Jotsuba says she couldn't resist his sister's cuteness. Reiha reveals that Jotsuba even bought her fireworks, and Futaro reminds her to thank Jotsuba properly. Reiha hugs Jotsuba tightly, telling her she loves her, which makes Jotsuba emotional and wishes she could be Reiha's real sister. She even blurts out that marrying Futaro would make it possible, which Nino quickly shuts down, telling her that she's delusional. Nino then warns Futaro not to make any moves on Jotsuba, startling him so much that he accidentally bumps into Miku. Futaro apologizes, but Miku assures him she's fine. Then, Ichika finishes her call, and the group prepares to head to the rooftop Nino rented for the fireworks. Before leaving, Nino insists they buy something, but each sister names a different item, forcing them to get everything, while Futaro silently questions whether they're really twins. On the way, he has Reita hold onto his sleeve so she doesn't get lost in the crowd, but because of everything around them, the group scatters across the festival. Miku finds Futaro and explains that fireworks were a cherished tradition with their late mother, and they always watch them together every year. Understanding the sentiment, Futaro listens quietly. Then, as the fireworks announcement begins, Nino finds herself alone in the crowd and nearly falls, but Futaro catches her hand and asks her to guide him to the rooftop. She hesitates, knowing it's meant for her sisters, but ends up leading him there. They arrive only to find the rooftop empty. with the fireworks already starting. Nino realizes she forgot to tell the others the location and tries calling them, but the poor reception makes it impossible. Jotsuba manages to reach her first, saying she's at the clock tower. From there, Futaro spots Ichika nearby, but her phone remains unreachable, so he decides to find her himself, and he has only an hour. He reaches Ichika just as an older man with a mustache stops him to ask who he is. Caught off guard, Futaro hesitates, and in that moment, Ichika leaves with the man. By the time he reacts, she's gone, and Miku appears instead. After being drawn by his shouting, Futaro wants to chase after Ichika, but Miku has injured her foot, so without hesitation, he carries her on his back, asking if she sees Ichika anywhere in the crowd. When she says no, he sets her down, casually joking about her weight, unaware that he accidentally insults her. He helps her wrap it to prevent further harm, and Futaro tells Miku about Ichika leaving with the man, and Miku recalls once seeing Ichika step out of an older man's car. She listens quietly as Futaro explains that seeing them work so hard on their homework showed him how much the fireworks truly mean to them. When he extends his hand to her, Miku happily takes it. Just then, a group of festival staff notices them holding hands and assumes they're a couple. Miku shyly denies it, but Futaro bluntly clarifies they're just acquaintances, leaving Miku quietly disappointed. When Miku spots Itsuki nearby, Futaro leaves Miku behind and quickly approaches Itsuki before she gets lost, but she looks disgusted to see him. As they walk back toward Miku, he awkwardly asks Itsuki how she views their relationship. She coldly replies that they're strangers at best, but then adds that he already knows the real answer, making him realize she considers him a friend after all. Suddenly, Ichika pops up, grabs him, and pulls him into a quiet alley. There, she warns him to keep silent about seeing her with the mustache man, and confesses she won't be able to watch the fireworks with her sisters this year. Ichika claims she has important work to do and decides not to join the others. She convinces herself it doesn't matter if she's missing, but Futaro knows it isn't that simple. When she tries to leave, he stops her, demanding to know what's going on. She turns the question back on him, wondering why he's going so far for them when he's only their tutor. The words strike him deeply, forcing him to confront why he's even involving himself in their family affairs. Ichika walks off, but freezes when she spots the mustached man nearby. Onheisi, she admits she's been avoiding him and pulls Futaro into a hug to hide their faces. The man passes without noticing but sits down right in front of the alley, forcing them to stay hugging and hidden. Ichika makes light of the situation, joking that anyone watching might mistake them for a couple, though she insists they're just friends. Futaro questions her choice of words, pointing out that he's only their tutor and nothing more. Ichika feels irritated that he doesn't see her the same way she sees him, but her response reminds Futaro of Miku's expression earlier, and he wonders if she felt the same frustration when he called them just acquaintances. Suddenly, the man's phone rings, and he apologizes to someone, promising not to interfere with active filming. Ichika explains that he's a cameraman she works with as an assistant, but Futaro warns that this job might distract her from studying and put her college entrance exams at risk. She counters by asking why he studies in the first place. For a moment, Futaro freezes, unable to answer. In his mind, an image flashes of a girl with long hair, someone important from his past. Suddenly, the mustached man calls Ichika's name and mistakes Miku for Ichika because of how she looks. Futaro quickly runs to save her, and he reflects on his bond with the sisters and what they really mean to him. The answer comes to him mid-chase, so he grabs Miku's hand, stands his ground, and boldly declares to the mustache man that he's their partner and not just their tutor. The man, confused by Futaro's determination, insists Ichika is his actress and must attend an important audition. Before anyone can argue, he freezes in shock upon spotting two Ichikas standing side by side, realizing he'd been chasing Miku by mistake. At the same time, Futaro finally learns Ichika's secret is that she's an aspiring actress. The manager pulls Ichika toward the car, reminding her she's late for the audition. Futaro tries to stop her, but Ichika apologizes, asking him to tell her sisters that she'll miss the fireworks. Miku urges Futaro to follow her, promising she'll be fine, and Jotsuba and Reiha arrive just in time to look after Miku, giving Futaro the chance to run after Ichika. Then, he catches up to her just as she waits for the car and asks if she truly wants to leave her sisters behind. Ichika counters with her own question, demanding to know why he goes so far for them if he claims to be only their tutor. Futaro answers confidently this time that it's because they're partners who help each other. Hearing that, Ichika hands him her script and asks him to play the teacher role to help her rehearse. As they practice, Ichika's acting stuns him with how good she is. The performance moves him to tears, and he finally understands just how much passion she has for her dream. Before they can continue, The manager returns to pick her up. Ichika prepares to leave, but Futaro stops her for one last moment. He tells Ichika to stop hiding behind a fake smile, reminding her that partners share each other's burdens, and for the first time, she hesitates and her walls crack. Futaro admits he initially took the tutoring job for the money, driven by debt, and never expected to care. But now he wants to work properly for what he earns, and that includes understanding her true feelings. He then asks why she trembled in the alley earlier if she's always so composed. Ichika reveals her insecurity that she wants to be a proper older sister and has been hiding her acting career until she achieves real success. And she declares that this is the path she wants for her future. Hearing that, Futaro tells her he'll wait for her return and expects her to apologize to her sisters. Then, at the audition, Ichika performs while thinking of her sisters and Futaro. For the first time, she gives a genuine smile and pours every emotion into her role, which impresses her judges. When she finishes, Futaro is outside, half sleeping, and when he spots Ichika, he takes Ichika with him. Leaving the manager behind, he leads her to a nearby playground where the others are waiting. Ichika braces herself for scolding, but instead, the sisters are gathered around, playing with fireworks Jatsuba and Reiha bought earlier, while Reiha sleeps soundly nearby. Futaro thanks Jatsuba for arranging the fireworks and for taking care of Reiha, and even Nino, though still prickly, admits he handled things well. Ichika apologizes for disrupting their plans, but Itsuki reassures her that it doesn't matter. His sisters reminisce about their mother's promise, and that no matter what happens, they'll support each other through happiness, anger, or struggle. With everyone together at last, they enjoy the fireworks as a family. Futaro feels a quiet sense of accomplishment, watching Reiha fall asleep in Jatsuba's lap and seeing the sisters smiling beside him. For the first time that day, he relaxes. Ichika gently offers her lap for him to rest on, and Futaro closes his eyes, finally at peace, knowing he's done everything he can to protect their bond. Weeks later, Ichika waits for Futaro, and she walks with him to school. He notices how her presence draws attention and wishes he didn't have to deal with it so early in the morning. Meanwhile, Ichika feels lighter than before after she informed her sisters of her secret job as an actress, and she's relieved to see them supportive of her career choice. Later, the teacher announces the upcoming midterm exams, and warns the students that anyone who scores below 30 points will fail, and Futaro realizes that the real challenge is now here. At lunch, Futaro approaches Itsuki and encourages her to study with him and the others, but Itsuki teases him, pretending to need help, only to ask for the teacher's help instead, refusing to ask Futaro for any guidance. Then, Futaro approaches Nino, and she fully ignores him and even lies to her friends, saying that Futaro is a stalker. Frustrated, Futaro reminds her of the joy and satisfaction he gave her in the summer, promising to make her feel that way again. But Itsuki's friends misinterpret his words, thinking they're clapping cheeks, while Nino blushes. Out of anger, Nino slaps him hard across the face. Then at the library, the red imprint of Nino's hand is still visible, and Ichika laughs softly at his misery. But Futaro shakes it off and warns the sisters they must take the exams seriously. Just then, to everyone's surprise, they catch Miku studying English, the subject she failed most, and she's determined to improve her grades. Her determination inspires Jatsuba and Ichika, and for the first time, a quiet motivation begins to spread among the group. After the session, they leave the library, tired but more focused. While the girls prepare to head home, Futaro remains deep in thought, searching for better study strategies. Suddenly, Ichika leans close and reassures him that failing doesn't mean expulsion and insists he relax. She suggests that because the sisters have worked hard, he has to be patient and even reward them. Jatsuba immediately demands parfait, and the others quickly agree. They invite Futaro along, but he chooses to head home instead. On the way, Itsuki stops him and scolds him for not joining his sisters, but Futaro simply tells her that he wants to study. Then she hands him her phone, revealing that her father wants to talk to him. Futaro stiffens when he hears the man's voice. The father apologizes for not meeting in person and expresses hope that the girl's studies are progressing well. But then, the father mentions the midterms and delivers a straight warning to Futaro that if any of the quintuplets fail even a single subject, Futaro will be fired immediately. Before Futaro can respond, the call ends. When Itsuki asks what was said, Futaro brushes it off as a simple conversation, hiding his worries. Instead, he redirects her attention to her own exam preparations. Itsuki insists it's not a problem, but Futaro stops her, pointing out that she failed a test earlier that day. They begin arguing, and it escalates until Itsuki reminds him she once asked for help and he turned her down. So now she doesn't want his half-hearted, money-driven assistance, and she believes she can pass without him. Futaro, frustrated, blurts out that if she fails, everything will be over, and Itsuki catches the slip, forcing him to clarify that he only meant his job. She accuses him of caring only about the money, and he admits that he did take the job for money and that he would have never put up with a spoiled brat like her. He instantly regrets saying it, but it's too late, and Itsuki says she lost respect for him and refuses to accept his tutoring. But instead of saying sorry, Futaro says that he would rather cut his own glizzy before teaching her. Later, while playing a board game, Miku notices his troubled expression and asks what happened. He considers telling the others the truth about how their father threatened to fire him. But before he can confess to their father's threat, Nino joins in. He knows that she would sabotage him to ensure Futaro gets fired, so Futaro chooses to stay silent about it. Then, Itsuki returns and Nino invites her to join the game, but she chooses to study alone instead. Annoyed, Nino pushes Futaro to leave and go home, but Ichika lies to the others, saying Futaro promised to stay the night for extra lessons, giving him an excuse to stay. Then Futaro soaks in the largest bathtub he's ever seen. Confused about why Ichika is going out of her way to help him, suddenly, Itsuki interrupts him in the tub, saying that Ichika told her that Futaro wanted to tell her something. Futaro then admits his earlier outburst at Itsuki, and explains that their father has threatened to fire him if any of them fail the exam. But to his horror, Itsuki reveals herself as Nino, who declares that after hearing what he said, she wants him fired more than ever. Meanwhile, the other sisters gossip about Futaro taking so long in the bath, suspecting he's going in there. Ichika urges Miku to make a move on him, but Miku refuses to admit her feelings. When Futaro returns, Ichika pretends to ask a question, and when Futaro approaches, she pushes Miku onto him, saying that he needs to teach her, trying to look confident in front of Nino. Futaro boldly says the girls can ask him anything. Seeing the chance, Miku asks what kind of girl he likes. The others lean in, curious, and Futaro says he'll answer if they finish their assignments. Motivated, they complete it, and Futaro reveals that firstly, he likes cheerful girls, then second, he likes girls who can cook, and lastly, he loves girls who love their brothers. The girls quickly realize he's talking about Reita, and that he needs to be locked in an Alabama prison, but Futaro quickly clarifies he has no interest in dating anyway. Just then, Ichika pushes him to praise Miku for her hard work, even suggesting he pat her head. When he does so, Miku blushes hard, while Futaro claims he felt nothing. But Ichika doesn't believe it and orders Jatsuba to check his heartbeat. She chases down Futaro, and when she gets to his chest, she states that it's racing wildly, but Futaro claims it's only because she'd been running. Suddenly, Itsuki stops their fun by scolding them for being too loud. Sensing tension, Ichika pulls Futaro out onto the balcony. She tells him today's fight with Itsuki feels different and heavier than usual. Ichika explains that Itsuki is like him, strong on the outside but soft inside, and she believes that despite her hard exterior, Itsuki actually feels lonely. And while Ichika wants to help, she knows that there are some things only Futaro can do. Touched by her words, he gently pats Ichika's head, calling her a good older sister, and the unexpected gesture turns Ichika bright red. That night, Futaro sleeps in Miku's room while she stays with Ichika, but later, half asleep, Miku returns to her own bed without realizing Futaro is still there. The next morning, Futaro wakes up in shock, realizing Miku is sleeping peacefully beside him. In the morning, everyone is having breakfast and wondering where Miku has gone. Ichika hasn't seen her since she woke up, and Jatsuba is still searching for her. While the others worry, the truth is that Miku is in her own room with Futaro. The conversation shifts to Futaro. Nino still doesn't trust him, while Ichika suggests they should all join the study session since they're fun. Nino refuses to change her opinion, and Itsuki admits she could never get along with Futaro, especially after their recent fight, and says that she can't be like Ichika or Miku. That gives Ichika an idea to make Itsuki look like Miku. She styles Itsuko's hair to look like Miku's and suggests that she trick Futaro. Then, Nima joins in the fun and coaches Itsuki until she perfectly mimics Miku's demeanor. Meanwhile, Futaro is still in shock to see Miku beside him, and he can't remember when she came into the room, and if she wakes up now, he knows it'll be a disaster, as everyone will think he clapped her. He sneaks out, only to run into another Miku in the hallway, but when he notices the pajamas, he guesses her to be Itsuki, which is correct. Itsuki is about to say something when a suspicious thud comes from inside the room, startling Futaro. He quickly brushes off Itsuki, saying he needs to do his routine morning goon, and that annoys Itsuki. Thinking the coast is clear, Futaro steps out again, only for Ichika to ask if he knows where Miku is. He replies that she went to the library. Then, Ichika decides to go there too, and brings Jatsuba and Futaro along. But even there, Futaro's mind drifts back to Itsuki, wondering what would happen if she failed the exam. He asks Jatsuba what she would do if one of them had to repeat the year, and to his amazement, Jatsuba tells him that she would stay with them. Inspired by her words, Futaro realizes what he must do. Ichika notices his change in attitude and cleverly pretends she needs him to return to the apartment to fetch something, giving him the chance to talk to Itsuki alone. Then, outside of the apartment, he bumps into the real Miku at the entrance. He tells her Ichika and Jatsuba are waiting at the library, so she should head there. Before leaving, Miku asks if anything happened the night before, and Futaro lies, saying that he slept on the couch because he wasn't used to a fancy bed, which relieves Miku. Then Futaro goes inside where he finds Itsuki sleeping alone at the dining table after studying the night before. He wakes her up and purposefully tricks her by calling her Miku because of the headset she's wearing. Despite her attempts to correct him, Futaro continues pretending, saying he'll teach her. Wanting to be honest with herself, Itsuki blushes and goes along with the misunderstanding. They study together, and Futaro occasionally compliments her efforts, which makes her happy. And through this quiet session, they silently forgive each other. Then the day of the exam arrives, and Futaro has one of the best dreams ever, where the sisters get perfect scores, and he gets to keep his job. He wakes up smiling, only to see that he's still over at their apartment, and now it's the day of the midterm exams. When he looks at the clock, he's shocked to see that they're late. He wakes up Itsuki, who also panics, and she screams, telling everyone that they're late. They all rush to school, but while Jatsuba speeds ahead, everyone else arrives late and gets blocked at the entrance by a strict teacher. Futaro quickly comes up with a plan that since they all look alike, they can wear the same headband as Jatsuba to trick the teacher. One by one, they get past him by saying they had to fetch something outside. However, when Futaro tries the same trick, he's caught immediately cause his chopped look has no similarities to Jatsuba. But on his way to the teacher's office, he encourages the sisters to believe in themselves and the studying they've done. Motivated by his words, the sisters enter the exam determined to make him proud. The test begins, and after weeks of lessons, they do their best to answer each question. For Itsuki, the pressure is even greater, knowing their father threatened to fire Futaro if they fail. Determined to succeed for his and Reiha's sake, she pushes herself harder. Days later, they gather to reveal their results. Itsuki hesitates out of embarrassment, but Futaro gently encourages her to share. One by one, the sisters reveal their scores, each managing to pass at least one subject, with Miku earning the highest grade of 68, despite their partial success. Futaro realizes he has failed his goal of getting them to pass all subjects. He praises each sister anyway, telling them he's proud to be their tutor, even if only for a limited time. Confused by his words, Miku asks what he means, and at that moment, their father calls on Itsuki's phone, ordering Futaro to report the results truthfully. Before revealing them, Futaro requests that the sisters get a better tutor, insisting he believes in their potential. His decision shocks everyone, but before he can say more, Nino grabs the phone and boldly lies, claiming the sisters passed every subject thanks to Futaro's teaching. Convinced by his daughter's words, the father declares that Futaro will continue as their tutor. After the call, Nino clarifies that she didn't technically lie since each sister did manage to pass at least one subject, and she firmly sets her expectations on Futaro, telling him to help them improve even more. Miku feels relieved he's staying, and Jatsuba eagerly suggests reviewing their test mistakes right away. While Futaro would love to dive back into studying, he decides to give them a breather and admits he wants to try what they call parfaits. The girls laugh, saying it doesn't suit him, but they agree to go anyway. On the way there, Jatsuba curiously asks about Futaro's own results, and it shocks them when they see that he scored a perfect 100 in every subject. Back home, Futaro is still in disbelief at how the sisters managed to fail every subject except one. At the dinner table, his father reassures him that Itsuki and the others will change eventually, just like he did when he went from being a delinquent to a study freak. Futaro's father mentions that he keeps a picture from his wilder days in his notebook. Curious, he takes the notebook from Futaro's pocket, and both he and Reiha see the photo. Reiha is stunned by how different her brother used to look, and their father explains that Futaro became obsessed with studying because of a girl he met in the past, making Futaro silently remember her. The next day in the kitchen, Miku tries her best to make croquettes. Although they come out looking like rocks, she asks Jatsuba to try one, but Futaro grabs it first. To Miku's surprise, Futaro says they taste great, though Jatsuba bluntly tells her they're terrible. Miku decides she'll keep making them until they taste better. After eating so many, Futaro can't move without feeling like he's going to throw up, while Miku has already run out to get medicine. Then Nino and Itsuki walk in. Nino asks if Futaro came to visit just to sleep all day or if someone poisoned him. Futaro says he really needs medicine. Neither Nino nor Itsuki believes him and decides to leave, so Futaro begs Jatsuba to help him keep them around so they can study. Even if she has to tell a lie, Not knowing what to say, Jotsuba says that Futaro has a deadly disease and that if he moves, he'll die. Futaro quickly grabs some ketchup and pretends to cough up blood. Itsuki falls for it immediately and sits beside him. For Nino, Jotsuba asks her to make something for Futaro to eat. Itsuki then asks Jotsuba how she can help Futaro feel better. Jotsuba recalls how their mother used to comfort them and suggests that Itsuki hold his hand. Itsuki hesitates, staring at his hand for a while, but ultimately refuses. Jotsuba then invites her to study with them instead, saying it'll help everyone grow closer. Seeing Jotsuba's bright smile, Itsuki agrees to think about it. Moments later, Nino brings the porridge but slips on the ketchup bottle and spills it. Futaro, having rarely seen such perfect grains of rice due to growing up poor, silently accepts his fate as the hot porridge lands on his face. He screams in pain, thrashing around, and Nino apologizes profusely. But when the sisters notice how easily he's moving, they realize he isn't actually sick and leave in frustration. Left alone with Jotsuba, Futaro's frustrated that he has to start from zero again, but Jotsuba tells him he's wrong, saying that his presence has already begun to change things, even to Nino, who would have kicked him out before, but didn't this time. Futaro credits Jotsuba for sparking this change since she's always been willing to study from the start. Hearing that makes her move closer, leaning over his head. She asks if he knows why she's like that. Futaro guesses it's because she needs help, but she smiles and says it's because she loves him. Futaro is speechless, but when he starts to take it seriously, Jotsuba quickly says she's joking, and Futaro gets annoyed, telling himself not to believe people so easily. The next day, Jotsuba rushes to Futaro's tutoring session. When she arrives, Futaro scares her by wearing a horror mask and a blonde wig, and they get scolded for being noisy in the library. He explains that he was forced to join the school camp's courage test committee without his consent, so he plans to make the courage test extra terrifying as revenge. He doesn't care much about the field trip anyway, but Jotsuba says it'll be fun, and even adds that there's a myth that couples who dance by the bonfire at the end of the day will stay together forever. But even after hearing that, Futaro calls it silly. Miku agrees aloud but secretly finds the legend romantic. Just then, Ichika appears, and since she can't join the study session, she asks Futaro to exchange emails so they can coordinate better next time. Seeing this makes Jotsuba want to do the same, but she decides to finish making her bird origami first. Before she can, a teacher walks in and asks her to bring her class's books. She agrees instantly, which annoys Futaro, who suspects it's just another excuse to avoid studying. Ichika leaves for work but still manages to tease Futaro by sending him a photo from the summer festival, where he had fallen asleep on her lap. She threatens to share it if he fails to get all the others' numbers. Not wanting that picture to spread, Futaro starts collecting their numbers. He starts with Miku, who gives her phone right away. Then Itsuki refuses at first, but when Futaro offers Rei his email in exchange, she agrees. Then, to convince Nino, he claims that he and her sisters will gossip behind her back if she doesn't give hers, which pushes her to give in as well. She writes her email in his handbook, leaving only Jotsuba. When Futaro asks Jotsuba, she shows him her email, but before he can read it, she gets a call from the basketball team captain asking to meet. She lies, saying she has an emergency, but Futaro follows her, leaving his handbook with Nino, who writes her email inside. Futaro spots Jotsuba talking with the basketball team, who invite her to join after seeing her skills. Expecting her to accept, Futaro is shocked when Jotsuba declines, saying she already has someone who believes in her and wants to fight for that trust. Back home, Futaro realizes he still doesn't have Nino's email since his handbook is with her. The next morning, he sneaks into her room while she's asleep to retrieve it, causing her to scream when she wakes up. Nino confirms she has it but refuses to give it back. Just then, Ichika arrives with the piercing tool Nino requested, and Nino says she'll give the book back if Futaro pierces her ears. He agrees, seeing it as a little revenge, and during it, he tries to get his book back, but just as he reaches for his book, Nino dodges and kicks him for trying to trick her. The book falls open, revealing an old picture of Futaro. Nino is stunned, seeing that the guy in the picture is her type. Embarrassed, Futaro lies, claiming it's a picture of a relative. Amused, Nino decides to show him an old photo of her and her sisters, but Futaro couldn't give a donkey's dingus about it, so she heads to show the others instead. Futaro feels relieved that Nino didn't notice the other side of the photo, where a younger Futaro is standing with a girl he once loved, one of the 5 sisters. The day before the field trip arrives, Jotsuba, as energetic as ever, excitedly talks about the trip and all the fun activities like climbing, skiing, fishing, and other outdoor adventures, especially the bonfire, where couples often end up forming. Futaro dismisses the idea of dating as pointless, which confuses Miku, prompting her to ask why people even date in the first place. Just then, Ichika joins the conversation, explaining that people date because they feel so strongly about someone that they want to be with them. Futaro can't take it anymore, so he cuts them off, saying it's time to get back to studying and logic. However, Ichika says she has work, and Jotsuba has somewhere to be. That leaves Miku alone, but Ichika hands her away and asks for her usual help. Curious, Futaro follows her and discovers that Miku is pretending to be Ichika. Later in class, a student approaches Ichika, unaware that it's Miku, and nervously confesses his feelings. He asks her to dance with him at the campfire. Caught off guard, Miku asks why, and he bluntly replies that he likes her. This makes Miku silently wonder just how many guys are interested in clapping Ichika. Miku tells him she'll think about it, but he presses her for an immediate answer. Just then, he studies her face more closely. Suspicion creeps in, and he asks if she's really Ichika. Before Miku can respond, Futaro steps in, claiming he's been looking for Ichika because her sisters need her. Annoyed, the boy confronts Futaro for interrupting, demanding to know his relationship with Ichika. Thinking quickly, and declares that she has already promised to dance at the campfire with Futaro. Shocked, the boy insists Futaro isn't good enough for her, but Miku confidently says Futaro is cool and packing. The boy accuses them of dating, and Miku boldly confirms it, pulling Futaro away. Unconvinced, the boy challenges them to prove it by holding hands. Futaro hesitates, but before he can react, Miku grabs his hand tightly, stunning him. Embarrassed and defeated, the boy finally walks away. But before he leaves, Miku asks why he confessed in the first place, and he explains that he just wanted the person he likes all to himself. Just then, Nino, Itsuki, and Jotsuba show up, dragging Futaro to the shopping center to buy clothes for the trip. Each girl has a completely different fashion sense from his own, but in the end, they actually buy him new outfits. Nino says that since Futaro will be around them all the time, he should at least look fresh. Before parting, Jotsuba reminds him to check the field trip schedule book, but then, Futaro checks his phone and sees 5 missed calls from his father. It turns out Reiha has a fever, and even while sick, she apologizes to him. Futaro doesn't mind, as he's happy to take care of his sister, even doing her homework for her. Before he leaves, Reiha asks him to tell her all about the trip when he gets back. However, the next morning, Futaro doesn't show up at the school bus, and he stays with Reiha, fully intending to skip the trip. When his father returns and learns what's happening, he reassures Futaro that he can still join the camp, reminding him it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Suddenly, Reiha wakes up feeling completely better and even asks for food, shocking both of them. At that moment, Itsuki unexpectedly appears at the house and drags Futaro outside, where he finds all the sisters waiting for him. They urge him to come along on the trip, and he happily agrees. However, due to a blizzard, their bus gets stuck, forcing them to stay overnight at a nearby resort. While unpacking, Futaro finds a note and a lucky charm from Reiha, wishing him good luck on the trip, which lifts his spirit. Later, Ichika privately asks Miku if she's really okay letting her dance with Futaro at the bonfire, and while Miku feels conflicted, Miku says that it's fine if it's Ichika. That evening, they sit down for a Gordon Ramsay-level dinner, leaving Futaro amazed by the food. While discussing the camping schedule, Futaro flawlessly explains the entire plan from top to bottom, surprising the girls with how well prepared he is. Ichika then suggests going to an open-air bath, but they quickly realize it's mixed and refuse to join Futaro, not wanting to see his slim gym. The girls bathe together instead, where Nino brings up that since they'll all be sleeping in the same room, someone will inevitably have to sleep next to Futaro. After debating over who should do it, they decide all 5 of them will style their hair the same way so Futaro won't know who's who, keeping him guessing. But the next morning, Ichika wakes up and is shocked to find Futaro sleeping right beside her. Watching Futaro's peaceful expression stirs unexpected feelings in her, and remembering everything he's done for her, she feels tempted to kiss him. But just as she's about to taste his lips, Itsuki suddenly walks in and quickly shuts the door, not realizing which sister she just saw almost kissing Futaro. But before she can process it, 3 of their teachers appear. It turns out the school is also taking a short break at the same resort. They all get back on the bus with Futaro, who doesn't know anything, and Itsuki, who knows something. When they finally arrive at the campsite, everyone seems to enjoy doing their own thing. That leaves Futaro in charge of watching the food, with Maeda sitting beside him. While watching the rice simmer, Maeda asks Futaro for advice on how to get himself a baddie on his glizzy. before Futaro can reply. Jatsuba shows up carrying boxes and asks for his help. He heads over to assist her but casually tells Maeda to invite a girl during the upcoming test of courage, suggesting it might give him a chance to get closer to someone. Maeda, however, looks annoyed, seeing that Futaro is currently bagging Yotuba while already clapping Ichika on the side. As night falls, it's time for the test of courage, and Maeda manages to bring a girl along, but to his frustration, she isn't scared at all. But suddenly, Futaro and Jatsuba suddenly jump out and scare them, causing both Maeda and the girl to scream and run away. Jatsuba laughs happily and admits she's glad Futaro came on the trip, telling him she hopes he leaves the camp without any regrets. Soon after, the next group approaches and they prepare to scare them as well, only to discover it's Ichika and Miku, who show no fear at all. While Ichika teases Futaro about his ridiculous blonde wig, Miku stays silent, lost in thought. Futaro warns her to follow the marked signs to avoid a dangerous cliff, and she quietly nods before leaving. Later, Miku confides in Ichika, admitting she feels strange whenever Futaro is around. Curious, she asks Ichika what she thinks about him. Realizing Miku's feelings, Ichika gently suggests that Miku take her spot during the upcoming dance, encouraging her not to regret missing the opportunity. The second group is Nino and Itsuki, and both get easily frightened when Futaro pops up to scare them, making both scream and run. However, Futaro notices they've taken the wrong path and are heading dangerously close to the cliff. In the chaos, Itsuki gets separated and runs off, leaving Nino alone in the dark woods. While searching for Itsuki, Nino's phone dies, leaving her without any source of light, scared. She stumbles and falls to the ground, but Futaro shows up to save her like a prince. Because of his blonde wig, Nino mistakes him for someone else. The hot Chad she saw in Futaro's notebook, Kintaro. When he tries to help her up, her skirt gets caught on a branch and rips slightly, but to his surprise, Nino doesn't get angry or slaps him. Realizing she hasn't recognized him, Futaro decides to keep up the act, pretending to be Kintaro. Then he tries hard to make Nino dislike Kintaro, pretending to be a drunk who pumps and dumps women, but she says she likes wild guys. He then acts like a geek, but she says she loves smart guys. Futaro thinks Nino is just pretending to be cute, knowing how much she hates the real him, but she admits she dislikes people who are arrogant about their grades, indirectly criticizing Futaro without realizing she's speaking to him. Just then, she notices a scratch on his forehead and gives him a cute band-aid, claiming that she's used to taking care of her sister's injuries. Suddenly, a frightening noise echoes through the woods, and Futaro tries to reassure her with his lucky charm, claiming it will protect them. But when the sound grows closer, he panics and bolts, leaving Nino behind. She ends up finding a path that leads to a cliff, and Futaro pulls her back before she can fall, but then he almost falls himself. But thanks to Reida's lucky charm, Nino manages to pull him to safety. Still shaken, Nino asks for his hand, but Futaro instead gives her Reida's lucky charm, telling her it will protect her and grant her wishes. She's happy with the gift and asks if he'll be staying for the rest of the camp. When he says yes, she asks if he'll dance with her at the bonfire, saying she'll wait for him. Suddenly, the frightening noise returns, but it turns out to be Itsuki. Relieved, Nino hugs her sister tightly. She's surprised that Nino handled the situation alone. Nino excitedly turns to introduce Kintaro to them, but he has already disappeared. Smiling softly, she holds the lucky charm close, secretly hoping to meet him again. Back at camp, Nino walks around happily, still thinking about the night's events. When Futaro asks why she looks so cheerful, she refuses to tell him anything. Realizing he can't possibly dance with both her and Ichika, Futaro decides to come clean with Nino, but when he goes to find her, she's already gone. He runs into Ichika and Miku instead. Ichika, sensing the tension, walks away to give Miku her chance, but rather than saying something sweet, Futaro asks Miku about Nino, which frustrates her. Confused about why the sisters are upset with him, Futaro wonders what he's done wrong until Itsuki bluntly tells him it's because he's been acting like a coward. Later, he helps Jatsuba carry heavy logs for the campfire, explaining that it's his way of returning the favor for her help during the test of courage. However, Jatsuba points out that he left her alone to handle everything when he ran after Nino, making him realize just how horrible Has had been to her. When Jatsuba gets called away, Ichika takes over helping him. She can tell something's wrong from his tone, and Futaro explains that he doesn't want to be hated by everyone. Ichika decides to help him practice, pretending to act like Nino and Itsuki, while he tries to respond naturally. However, his awkward attempts give her second-hand embarrassment, so she advises him to simply be himself. Futaro feels relieved, appreciating Ichika's maturity. Then, only one log remains. Still conflicted about the dance, Futaro asks Ichika to cancel theirs, leaving her to deal with Maeda instead. When he looks at her, he's shocked to see tears in her eyes. Before he can say anything, a group arrives to collect the last log, but no one notices that Futaro is secretly helping Ichika hide her tears. Wanting to comfort her, Futaro gently places his jacket over her shoulders, flustering her. But before they can leave, the door closes, and they realize they are locked inside. Initially, they laugh it off, but they quickly realize that they are trapped. Futaro wants to break the door open, but Ichika points out the burglar sensors that will automatically go off if the door is forced. Futaro doesn't care, but Ichika stops him anyway, warning that their school will get in trouble if they cause a scene. And she especially doesn't want Miku to find out and think that they're getting freaky while locked in. Futaro then suggests lifting Ichika onto his shoulders so she can try to disable the detector. Ichika hesitates at first but eventually agrees, feeling flustered when she notices how broad his shoulders are. As she climbs on, Futaro can't help but notice how warm the back of his head is, and Ichika quickly tells him to stay focused and stop gooning. When she checks the device, they realize a key is required to disarm it. Then, Futaro starts a fire to keep them warm, and Ichika keeps voicing her concerns, but he barely listens. Meanwhile, outside, the other girls realize Futaro and Ichika haven't returned since they went to collect firewood. Miku, feeling conflicted, begins to wonder what Ichika might be doing with him and decides to search for them. Back in the locked room, Ichika suddenly says she plans to quit school, finally grabbing his attention, and she feels relieved to see him listening. She explains that because of her acting skills, she's been receiving more acting offers and plans to take a break from school, like many actors do. She feels fine with it, knowing that she's not doing well in class anyway, and maybe Miku will be happier that she's gone. To her surprise, Futaro tells her he's happy she found something she's passionate about and even admits he envies her for having options in life. At that moment, he successfully creates fire, shocking and impressing Ichika. Then Ichika whispers that she's fine if Futaro cancels the dance, as long as they can have their own dance instead. But then, Futaro brings up a myth that couples who dance by the bonfire will stay together for a long time. Hearing this, Ichika suddenly regrets persuading Miku to let her dance with Futaro, realizing how selfish and hurtful that request was. Just then, a log unexpectedly falls toward Ichika, but Futaro pulls her out of the way just in time. She looks at him, feeling a rush of emotion she can't ignore. Falling log sets off a loud noise, triggering the burglar alarm. A voice warns them to retrieve the key immediately, or the police will be alerted. Suddenly, the sprinklers activate, drenching both of them as panic sets in. At that moment, Miku and Itsuki arrive with the key, demanding an explanation for why Futaro and Ichika were alone together. After they're freed, the teacher scolds them for playing wet hanky-panky, and both Miku and Itsuki refuse to believe Futaro's innocent explanation. The next day, Ichika catches a cold from being soaked. While Itsuki scolds her for being reckless, Ichika says that Itsuki needs to face Futaro directly. Ichika asks if Futaro really seems like such a bad guy to her, and Itsuki can't answer. Elsewhere, Jatsuba drags Futaro out of bed to go skiing with the others. Futaro says he's sick, but Jatsuba accuses him of just procrastinating, promising to teach him if he can't ski. When he asks where the others are, Jatsuba says Ichika is sick and Itsuki is looking after her. Futaro says everything has been awkward since that night, then warns Jatsuba to check inside before locking the door next time. As Jatsuba was the one who locked them in, then Miku approaches from behind. Futaro looks closely at her, saying she seems different. Miku flusters and falls backward, refusing his help. Ichika then arrives, still a bit sick but ready to join in. When Futaro asks about Itsuki, Ichika says she's playing elsewhere, so they haven't met. Wanting to have some fun, Ichika suggests playing a game of tag, making Jatsuba the chaser. As Jatsuba counts the seconds, the girls ski off quickly while Futaro struggles to keep up. He quietly asks Ichika if she told anyone about what happened the night before, especially about her plan to quit school, and she reassures him she hasn't. Suddenly, Futaro realizes he doesn't know how to stop and ends up crashing into a tree. A crowd gathers around him, so he quickly gets up, embarrassed. As he rubs his head, his bandage comes loose and Nino, who happens to be nearby, picks it up. Recognizing it, she mistakenly believes Futaro is actually Kintaro, the man she has feelings for. Panicked, Futaro immediately runs away, refusing to face Nino and reveal the truth, but he ends up bumping straight into Jatsuba, who chases him to tag him. Now caught between both Nino and Jatsuba, Futaro manages to slip away and hides inside a nearby igloo. Inside, he discovers Miku, who is also hiding there from Jatsuba. The cramped space forces them to sit close together, and Miku nervously asks him not to move too much. When Futaro tries to leave, she stops him, asking him to stay with her a little longer. They chat about Jatsuba's incredible stamina, and Miku suggests giving her a handicap to even out the game, but Futaro disagrees. He tells her Jatsuba's athleticism is the result of her hard work and that it wouldn't be fair to downplay her efforts. Hearing this, Miku feels relieved, realizing she shouldn't compare herself to her sisters and that it's okay to fight for Futaro in her own way. Overcome with excitement, she suddenly stands up, bumps her head against the roof, and winces in pain but smiles anyway, declaring that everything is fair in love. Afterward, Miku pulls out her phone to call Ichika, asking her to meet and talk. She says that when it comes to these feelings, she wants things to be fair, not necessarily equal, and asks Ichika what she should do. Ichika asks if this is about the bonfire dance, and Miku says yes, then suddenly suggests that they could just dance together with Futaro. But Ichika immediately starts coughing, and Miku tells Ichika to get back to bed before her fever gets worse. Just then, Futaro unexpectedly joins their phone conversation, and Miku blushes when he sits close beside her. With Futaro listening, Ichika says that she's heading back and asks them to find Itsuki, who Ichika feels is feeling lonely, so they begin looking for Itsuki, starting from the cafeteria, and since that morning, Itsuki's phone has been off, and Miku worries she might be lost in the woods. But during the search, Futaro begins to feel weak, realizing he caught Reiha's illness and that he's the reason Ichika also fell sick earlier. When Nino and Ichika arrive, Miku immediately scolds Jatsuba, telling her to stop running around outside. But Ichika says Jatsuba tagged her first. Nino then tries to get Futaro and Ichika back to bed, but Futaro asks Jatsuba if Itsuki ran away from her, and he suspects this is more than just hiding, so they look over the map. They see that everyone has searched almost everywhere, except the restricted area. Nino turns back, ready to report Itsuki's disappearance so the rescue team can help. But Ichika stops her and suggests they search one more time. Futaro notices something off and remembers a phone call earlier. He stops Nino from calling for help and says that he'll search for Itsuki himself, while bringing Ichika to help him. He takes her to the cable chair, saying it'll help him find Itsuki faster. While scanning below, Futaro suddenly claims he sees Itsuki, but when Ichika looks closely, she realizes he's pointing at a random person. Then suddenly, without warning, Futaro pulls off Ichika's hoodie, revealing Itsuki disguised as Ichika, and finally finds her. She realizes that Futaro noticed earlier from the way she spoke to him, and while he's usually insensitive, he knows enough about them to tell the difference. Hours earlier, Ichika had convinced Itsuki to experience Futaro from her perspective to prove he's different from their father and that he can be trusted, believing it would change how she viewed him. Overcome with guilt, Itsuki starts crying, apologizing for the trouble and admitting she just wanted to be sure. Futaro gently comforts her, but his fever worsens, and he falls asleep on Itsuki's shoulder. Later, a teacher takes Futaro back to his room, and the real Ichika apologizes, saying she's the one who gave Itsuki the idea. The girls want to stay with him, but Futaro glares and says there's nothing they can do. The teacher agrees and bans the sisters from entering while he rests. But before they leave, Futaro stops Nino and tells her that Kintaro had other business after meeting her, so he left and simply wishes she's okay. Nino misunderstands this as rejection and walks off, upset, for Ichika and Miku. Miku hands Ichika a match soda and presses her forehead to hers to check her fever. Ichika thinks Futaro might have caught his fever from her, but Miku says it might have started earlier. Ichika also apologizes for accepting the dance without considering Miku's feelings. Miku apologizes too for being selfish about Futaro. She knows she wants him, but so do the others, but to Ichika's surprise. Miku confidently declares that, unlike before, she won't hold back anymore and is determined to win Futaro's heart, even if it means competing against her sisters. Without hesitation, Miku openly confesses that she likes Futaro, but moved by her determination, Ichika warmly embraces her. For Jatsuba and Itsuki, they gather Futaro's belongings. Jatsuba finds his notes with tags of places Futaro wants to visit and activities he wants to do, realizing how excited he actually was for this trip. Suddenly, Jatsuba decides to sneak inside to accompany Futaro, refusing to let him spend the last night of the trip alone. When the teacher watching Futaro gets called away, Itsuki also sneaks in, also having the same idea as Jatsuba to accompany Futaro. Being in the dark, she searches for the light switch, and she turns it on, only to find that all 5 sisters there had the same idea. Each of them admits they came because they care about him. Itsuki steps forward first, softly telling Futaro that she doesn't know much about him yet, but hopes that when he wakes up, he'll share more of himself with them. Then, while the bonfire continues outside, Futaro sleeps peacefully inside, his hand gently held by someone. sometime in the future. Raiha receives a text from Futaro saying he forgot his wedding ring at home. She rushes with the ring to find Futaro sleeping, and she almost scolds him for forgetting the ring but stops when she notices the lucky charm she gave him years ago still hanging from his neck. The wedding ceremony begins. As Futaro walks to the altar, he meets Maeda and his future baby mama. Maeda happily gives credit to Futaro, saying that he married her because Futaro once encouraged him to dance and hold her hand at the bonfire. He also recalls how Futaro, while sick that night, held hands with his future wife. Then the woman of the hours walks in, and as she takes Futaro's hand, he remembers how that night not just her, but each of the sisters held his hand, each silently wishing to be the one by his side. Suddenly, Futaro wakes up from his fever sleep to find the sisters overjoyed to see him healthy. They celebrate loudly, and Futaro gets annoyed by the noise. He chases them away, and they all run away, laughing while not knowing that one of them will become the love of his life. If you watch this anime recap until the end, comment down 5 pairs of cheeks are better than one. If you like anime recaps like this, watch this video,